people who do streams, and they just launch into it like really well, as opposed to falling over and tripping. I think I just need a lens cap to put that on the camera or something like that, so I can always do the lens cap dad gag, which is this recording? I don't know. Anyway, it's Saturday, and this is The Art of Rock. I acknowledge the Tongva people for being the traditional landowners of where I am in California. And I always say thank you for surviving, but I think right now, let those words resonate. All the bullshit those people have been through, thank you for surviving. And it's my hope that we can learn from your strength and your resilience and your community wonder. Every Saturday we're here on Angelspit's Twitch, and that's it this time. It's fantastic. This is brought to you by, wow, my screen's already frozen, by Angelspit's Patreon. Jump on and you can hear me whine more there for $3 a month, or most of it's actually free. But please, if you want to jump on, we're trying to keep each other going. I think we're doing an okay job of it. Yeah, fucking oath. Angelspit's new album is kickstarting. I'll tell you, the lyrics were not censored on this one. I'm quite proud of this one. I'm very proud of this one indeed. There's more music that I'm really proud of is on the Industrial Incisions playlist. A bunch of bands that you haven't heard of and a bunch of bands you have heard of. It's an opportunity to go and find new things. You know, when you find new fucking things, your mind starts opening and becomes more neurologically plastic, and we all fucking need that right now. We really do. Wednesday night. Oh, g'day, Rob. Good to see your face. Speaking of Rob, Alex and Vulture Culture and that fantastic online audience on Wednesday night. Hey, look, I'm wearing the t-shirt. Go, and if you want this t-shirt, fucking support Alex. We've got to keep this fucker going. Wednesday night, it's a great one. Rob actually just gave Alex a loan of the K2000. We've become a bit of a K2000 mafia. Have you noticed that? Like, we're all K2000 users. You just don't fuck with them. Don't talk to us about distortion. We know about distortion. We know about a lot of fucking wave shaping. Don't fuck with us. That's about as tough as I'm capable of getting, and it was quite nerdy and pathetic, and I apologize, but every other K2000 user's going, yeah, yeah. We were playing with our K2000 when Star Trek Next Gen was a thing. Before there were prequels. Non-stop music from the bleeding edge, MTV TV. There's probably a lot of K2000 users on that one as well. You can't get a fucking plug-in version of the K2000. Fuck you! And there's no USB on the K2000. That's how legit it is. Fuck you! Anyway, we're going to rate MTV TV after this, and it's great. And if you want, I was reading on Reddit this morning. Why do I read Reddit? Reddit's a great place to go if you want to be reminded that you're a piece of shit and your music sucks. But MTV TV is the place to go if you want to remember that you're awesome. This person on Reddit was saying, how do I promote? And I haven't responded yet, but I'm going to say fucking send your video to MTV TV. There it is. There's an email. And they will play it. You're going to find your audience. You're going to find a new favorite band. It's just fucking awesome. And that's their Patreon. We have to keep them going as well. Raziel, thank you so much for being my therapist.
You're welcome. It's $150.
Yeah, I know. Same time next week. Okay.
That's all the time we have. Thank you.
Unfortunately, your insurance doesn't cover this one. So there's Raziel. Go listen to his shit. I'm still quite jealous and shitty at you because of the plays you're getting on YouTube. It's fucking phenomenal. Good on you, mate. Good on you. And after this, we're going to raid to MTV TV. And if you feel like making some trouble because fuck it, indivisible, go join. If you're concerned about what's going on, they will put you to ease and they will remind you that there are so many rights of amazingness and you need to just fucking remember your rights and everything's going to be okay. It won't, but it's better to be sharing a drink with friends or something. And darkmusic.net is an alternative place for darklings to go. It's kind of like a social media thing, but it doesn't have a dog shit algorithm dictating what you see. Oh, that was quite a rant of an intro, wasn't it? Welcome to the Art of Rock. What are we ranting about and getting angry about this morning? Tumbleweeds.
Man, that's too big of a question.
We came up with it before we went live, and then I've totally forgotten. Oh yeah, bowls and shit. Okay, we'll do fucking hippie shit. So last week I had the absolute pleasure of mixing. So it was Pride Trans last weekend, and I was mixing at the LGBT Center. It was fantastic, and I was mixing a sound bath, and it was very healing, and it was fantastic. And they were playing bowls, and the bowls were tuned to 432, which is just below 8, just below A440. And it's really interesting when you research all this stuff, because actually in 1939 they decided to go to A440 up from, I think it was A440 32 or something. I don't know. These are like the tiniest fucking amounts we're talking about now. And where's Kerry? Because Kerry would love to shoot her mouth off about this. I always enjoy it when Kerry shoots her mouth off about this stuff. So there's a whole bunch of really interesting ideas of how different frequencies can basically hack, for want of a better term, the human fucking spirit and being and shit. For example, 396 is the liberating frequency. It's the root chakra. 396. In fact, I'm going to paste this in here, and this is so interesting. Maybe you think this is boring as fuck, because my ultimate question is, how do you know that? 417, and that's telling you the note, and also this. I found out what the cent derivation is as well. So if you tune it to that and then you drop it, you add 18 cents. You're going to hit that frequency. Or, of course, if you've got a K2000, you can tune it exactly to the frequencies. Just saying. Thank you, fucking Ray Kurzweil. The sacral chakra is 417, which is G sharp plus 7 cycle, 7 cents. The solar plex chakra is 528, and 528 is also seen as a real healing chakra as well. That's C5 plus 16. And of course, I'm looking at this going, if I draw a chord on this, what's going to happen? And what's interesting about, hold on, we'll get to this. The connecting frequency, or the heart chakra, this is an important one, is 639. You know, it's funny, if I was doing this correctly, I'd be saying it like this. The heart chakra is 6. I'm such a cunt. 639, which is D sharp plus 46, which is really interesting because 46 cents puts it right between D sharp and E. That puts it smack bang in the middle of it. This comes into a broader conversation that I'm so fascinated with. The throat chakra, which somebody really needs that I need to fucking shut down, is 741. And if I should put this on the Patreon as well, because this shit's really fascinating to me, which is basically an F sharp. Are you looking at the notes here? Fascinating chord we're building. Like, what the fuck is this chord? And the eye chakra, is it the third eye chakra? I'm not sure. Yeah, no, that is the third eye chakra. Is the 852, which is another G sharp, which is plus 44. And also each planet's got a has a frequency as well. Fascinating. There's so much more. Then there's the crown chakra, which is 963. So firstly, surprise, surprise, I'm really into this shit. You can just buy a fucking bowl off Amazon now that'll resonate to this. Dude, and it was funny that when I was helping this ambient sound bath pair load out, I referred to it as the new, when I was into this shit. When it was the new age, I've just got such a way with words. And they were brilliant. These guys were fucking great. Really good shit. And when I referred to it as the new age, and they kind of looked at each other, and it was, hey man, it was the 90s. It was the brave new age. Because back in the brave new age, and you were into this shit, firstly, you couldn't find this fucking information. You couldn't just, hey Google, what's the heart chakra frequency? The library didn't have this shit. You had to specifically find a fucking book from a hippie shop that had this fucking specific frequency. And I don't even remember seeing that shit. What I remember is people going into secondhand thrift shops, buying salad bowls made out of crystal or glass, building a thing where they could sit on them, filling them with water till it sounded right, and bowing it. They didn't have the silicon. I don't even think silicon was invented then. Jesus, am I showing my age right now or what? Then start me on when I was Thoth. Ancient Egyptians had all this shit. I remember that stuff well, because they had the Egyptian equivalent of fucking Amazon, which I think was called Atlantis Ibis Delivery. All the fucking hippy dippy shit you wanted. And it was shipped all over the world by Dragon. Anyway, so you had to fill the fucking bowl up with water, because water obviously changes the pitch. So, and it fucks with the resonating blah, 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 blah. But it was fucking great fun.
When you had to do all your transactions in orichalcum.
Yes! Or on paper with a pencil. But anyway, here's more information from Carl, the one shooting his fucking mouth off. That's talking about some of the instruments that they talk about that is within the range of these things. Now, are these instruments talking about specifically the harmonic response of these things, or are they actually saying these instruments play those things? Because, hey, I've got a sampler. Am I cheating if I have a recording of a fucking bowl and I sample it and then I adjust the pitch? They were out of tune. Just saying. They weren't exactly 432. I looked at it. So the first question is, how can a human being get so angry about fucking woo-woo healing and passionate as I am now? Secondly, is that if your fucking bowl is out, is that going to be a problem? Because remember, if you're in a temperature variant situation, the bowl is going to go out of tune. Does that matter? Because, look, I'm into fucking woology and science and magic and shit, as everybody fucking knows. But at the end of the day, like when you fucking start talking to me about harmonics, I'm going to get fucking shitty in your face. Also, FYI, the interesting thing about a bowl is that it predominantly outputs a sine wave. It had a slight sub-harmonic, which was interesting, and a very slight harmonic, but it's basically a sine wave. It's a very rich kind of sine wave. A rich sine wave. Fuck is that? So when I'm looking at this G4, G sharp, that's a tonal cluster right there. C, what the hell is that? D sharp, kind of an E. That's actually interesting because it's halfway between a minor third and a major third. I'm assuming that this is in C, so that's kind of a fifth, a kind of a slightly sharp fifth, a kind of a sharp flat sixth, so that's kind of spooky. C root, which is slightly sharp. Halfway between a major third and a minor third, a flat five, another another note a G sharp, which is kind of like quite sharp. That's almost an A. And then a B, which is almost an A as well. So when I look at that tonal cluster, I go, is that very interesting? Is there something, and I'm being quite serious now, when you play that stuff together, are the beating of the sine waves, is that going to be creating something magical? Gee, I don't know. Has anyone tried this before? Maybe I should. I'm sure somebody has fucking tried this before. And I had another question, but I forgot what it was. So this is kind of like borderline serious question, like I'm going in here. Brett, help.
Rock on. So yeah, I've tried things like this before. Where I got my interest in it was actually from a college library. You know, you mentioned having to find these frequencies and whatnot in books, and I found psychology books to be great. There's a massive body of research about this, and it's been militarized. So my introduction to it was initially binaural beats. You know, using frequencies to create that kind of wah, 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 wah between the ears, or actually pulsing sound at those frequencies. I have found that you can have some really unexpected consequences. So, you know, when I was using them, one of the things I like to do was try to put, you know, the listener into the environment. Well, I write scary stuff. If you reinforce that too much, they don't like it. They just go away. It's just too much. It does something to the psychology to where it actually truly engages, I think, those responses. And you do fight or flight. So maybe then the approach is to mix it with, hey, here's comfort, and then add, you know, the nightmare fuel. And play with dissonance. I don't know. That I've not done yet.
Fascinating. Thank you very much. Isn't it interesting how ultimately this is about controlling the human being? It is. Very, very fast. So without question, Ivan, hit me.
Okay, first warning, all the fans in the house are trying to keep the house cool at the moment. And that really.
So because it's getting warm in Milwaukee, is it?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So it's going over 70 degrees, is it, Ivan?
We're hitting 95 and humid today.
Wow.
It's going to feel 100 and some change.
Holy shit. That's actually quite impressive.
Summary.
And you're wearing look at what you're wearing right now. You're wearing a long sleeve shirt, Ivan. Okay, dude, get this. When it's hot, you don't wear a long sleeve shirt.
I felt the need to get dressed up today.
You don't need to get dressed up today. In fact, get like a singlet. What do you call those things? A singlet, and spill stuff on it, like a white one. Spill stuff on it so it looks legit. I don't know what Rezi's doing with his face right now, but it looks like horror and shame.
I was thinking of maybe Ivan could wear one of those Lady Gaga singlets with no singlet. It's like more of a suggestion of a singlet, sort of down to the crotch.
Or one of those Sex Pistol ones that's like mesh. So my dad, he's got some of them, and I tried to steal it, and he wouldn't let me steal it. I know you're not supposed to say, hey, Dad, can I steal this? But it's the relationship I have with my dad. Hey, Dad, can I steal this? Oh, yeah, go for it. So no, you can't steal it. It's warm in the winter. But Dad, these are a punk essential. Okay, Ivan, I'm so sorry.
Some thoughts on
back to
using tones and human responses to such things. If you, for instance, done a bunch of chaos magic with a bunch of like chaos magic dudes, you know, all hanging out in the kitchen doing chaos magic stuff, and then your wife comes home and you have to explain it. But if when you're taking part in a large scale ritual, it will all and like all of them always do, but like there's nothing quite as awesome as getting 15 or 20 members all in a room doing the initial massive chaos or the greater pentagram ritual to clear the space, because like that for that you intone, E, A, O, and long for each like part of the ritual, and like the harmonics in that room go through the roof. Like the whole room vibrates as as everybody's doing this, and that really does transport you to a more magical space, just because like it sets your brain up to be ready for that next step, which is kind of awesome because like you can take a pile of completely untrained people and just dare them into really projecting those notes, and people that would suck at like singing can suddenly just do it. Like it's not a big deal. It's just breath control at that point, and it's not even a lot of breath control. And like the more you drag them out, the better it works, and that it sets up the space. It gets everybody in the mood. It is the foreplay before doing a ritual.
What number? What frequency? Or is everybody just going, or is it looking at the shape and the sound?
It is shape and sound, and it's E, A, and O, and you intone each of those loud and clear. Really, that's in, and as close to those as you can get. And because there's a lot of people in the room, they're doing it at slightly different frequencies, doing human vocal range kind of stuff, and it works. It just works.
Okay, thank you. That's very interesting. I have to
each of those does map to one of the chakras. So it's E, A, O,
So I accidentally muted you. All right, so look, next time you're doing that, try and hit it. Say the notes in it with the note. So try and say those sounds, roughly hitting the aforementioned notes. And once again, man, look, it's all about intent. I think
I've got a bunch of wave files already built out, like correcting to the note.
Okay.
And they're useful.
So many fucking questions. Like I guess I don't know. Is that so? When you play this note, should it be a sine wave? Like if you're doing synthesized music and it's not actually vocals, should it be a sine wave because you don't want additional harmonics in it?
I think it wants to be a sine wave. Like,
I mean, feedback is a sine wave, so
it needs that clarity.
Interesting. No, that's really interesting. So the King's Chamber resonates, they think, at 16.2. And of course, 16.2, that's like 1.618. Oh, that's Fibonacci. No, it's a fucking frequency, god damn it. And I do understand that the pyramids are based a lot on Fibonacci. There's no question in that. And I have heard other people say that they know certain things resonate because they've found trumpets or flutes that when they blow them, they hit that thing. But then this rolls into the entire fucking...
Well, and humans, we do a very good job of like responding to things that coincide with Fibonacci numbers, like at our like subatomic level, like it just works for us.
But my other thing is that like the Fibonacci thing in music is endlessly fascinating to me. And they say, oh, a fifth is half. No, it's not. That's not a fifth. That's slightly flat, is it? Then they talk about all the other Fibonacci ratios within an octave. Oh, they fit the notes. They're not the fucking notes. The Equal Temperament has like that's the other big question here is how much. I've fucking shut my mouth off about this before as well. Has Equal Temperament absolutely poisoned the fucking human psyche? Rezi, give me the voice of reason.
Poisoned? None. It's pretty cool to listen to, and it's got a lot of functions for like changing keys in the middle of a song and stuff. But one question that comes to mind as you guys are talking about all this stuff is what you've used the word should and goal statements, and like I don't know what the goal actually is in all of this. What are you saying? Should these be that frequency for? And like, is it better to have X versus Y, comparing waveforms and stuff? What's the goal that you're referring to at the bottom of all this?
Optimizing spiritual thump.
And how are these better than, like, as you say, 12-tone equal temperament at doing that for you? Or more interesting, or whichever. I don't mean better, but
okay. So firstly, you can, before you do a show, you're supposed to tune the hall. Because if you don't, you're going to get heaps of feedback and shit. So it stands to reason, therefore, that when you're wanting to throw something at a human being for the object of that music / sound / frequency to go into the human being and do something positive or whatever, you're wanting to tune the human being. You're wanting to make sure that the cycles you are hitting are the correct notes. But first thing, when you go from hall to hall, you got to tune each one differently because of the size of the hall and buddha. And therefore it stands to reason, because people are all different shapes and sizes and have different resonating factors and different resonating things in their body. And even if the cavity is like this to this, that represents a considerable volume, which is now a third different. Like it's a different note. So that's part of my question. But the other question is it kind of like a radio, where if you are throwing a set frequency at our radio, the radios have to all be on the same thing? Like, the thing I'm saying is I don't know. And it's very difficult for me to research this because
because there's a lot of conflicting information and there's a lot of scientific conflict in it, and but making myths is what we do, and building stories on this stuff collaborative is what we do, and we've got centuries and obviously stories and history, and it's beautiful and it makes us feel ways, and that part of it is not really up for debate. It's the fact that you're talking about tuning a room to make less feedback happen when the microphone and speakers are in a system, hearing and sounding each other. It's to get a predictable balance of how our show will sound in this hall versus this hall versus this hall. So we pick a baseline and we tune around it. It's not to invoke different powers from those rooms. So it's a really different set of questions you're asking of the hall versus of the human body.
Well, what I'm saying with the human body, what I'm trying to ask here is it the same frequency for all people? If so, why? Because all people are different. Their nerve structure is different. Like, is it based on the resonant length of the spinal nerve or something? I don't know. But that's all different.
Yeah. That raises a really specific thing that we can talk about and test. And yeah, your sinus cavities make a big difference in the shape of your mouth and how your voice is, and that has psychological and interpersonal effects on people. I mean, the tone and timbre and range of these small little chambers in your face and throat do impart spiritual differences, we'll call it, in how you feel in conversation and in concert with that person's voice. But if it shifts by 32 cents, you may not notice that I have a cold. If it shifts by a large amount, you'll start noticing. So the sort of sizes that we're talking about between some of these like tuning systems and frequencies are small enough to be in the range of, and this gets back to why I was asking what your goals are. imperceptible to human hearing, but you're saying there may be some other apparatus we have to sense these things. And where I agree is those beat frequencies and things where things are out of tune with each other sound beautiful to us. Almost universally. You said a rich sine wave is the oxymoron, which is a nice
Which
way of
doesn't
saying
actually-
a couple of sine waves, maybe create a beat frequency between them, and that has a richness to it that we appreciate because it's how we localize things. It's comfortable because when there's frequencies beating out on the savannah, we know that it's because they're separate and making, you know, two distinct things, and now we know there's two enemies out there. So there's really deep, visceral, psychological pushes for these things to be meaningful and beautiful, and that part I keep latching onto, but I do keep wondering, like, what is the fundamental, like, shoulds, and is it useful for
Okay, more. Firstly, sine waves don't exist in nature. Like a pipe isn't a sine wave. They don't. There's no sine wave in nature. There's nothing that creates a tone and no harmonics. Even when you're rubbing a bowl, like it's the amount of times that the silicon grabs and lets go of the bowl, that hundreds of times per second, is creating a frequency and a harmonic. If you push harder, if you push lighter, like so many factors. The other thing is that, going back to Equal Temperament, is that when you listen to music that is not in Equal Temperament, it is different. And although people say they can't hear, like, you know, people can't actually sense the tones or aware of the tones, this is difficult for me to verbalize. But when you play in a different scale, and I'm talking a non-equal temperament scale, like a scale that is actually based on Fibonacci cycle, or something.
And the old school Persian music,
Yeah, all that stuff.
has a ton of different scales, and they're wildly different from Equal Temperament.
And the thing is that,
And more importantly, like, they're really impossible to play on an Equal Temperament instrument.
well, I agree. And my point is that something happens to you when you play stuff on these instruments. There is a keyboard that does this. There's a really brilliant synthesizer that's got like a whole bunch of different tunings. I'm trying to remember what it was. What's it called? Really groundbreaking synthesizer. It was in the 90s.
Kind of starts with a K.
Yeah, K, and then there's a number.
You mean a synth with a tuning table? Wow, DX7.
No, way better than the DX7. Fuck y'alls. This is massively advanced to the DX7, which was a one-trick pony, by the way.
No competition. It has to be the K2000, I bet. So that's a
That's
masterful
the one.
instrument of choice.
By someone who is a Teslarian level genius, Ray Kurzweil. Oh, yes, he is. Yeah, and if you ever get a chance on the Kurzweil, on the K2000, you go through all the different scales and you play them, and it's like, it's doing so. It's unprogramming you. That's my whole thing about fucking Equal Temperament.
I like.
No, that's it.
I do like just tunings when people sing together. They don't use equal temperament. Obviously, they fit into the simple ratios of 2 to 1, 1 to 3. It's just like how people calculate being in tune with each other, and there's a lot to that. I think it's beautiful. But the question of, like, is out of tuneness poisoning anybody? And I say no in a somewhat jokingly glib way before. Even in a group of 4 people, you're out enough by some of the intervals that we use in 12-tone equal temperament. People don't tune so that they're phase locked with each other and everybody's singing the exact same note. You sing a spread up and down a few cents here and there, and it sounds rich and beautiful. Otherwise, we could just listen to like one person singing and call that rich, which it is by some measures. So that, my argument for equal temperament being more useful than damaging is the emotional swell that I get from a well-placed cadence and key change in a beautiful classical piece from an orchestra outweighs the need to retune every fingering state and fretted instrument and valved instrument so that it is somehow magically, mathematically in tune for simple ratios like the human voice would be. However, they can't do what sliding, non-fretted instruments can do, or classical scales, or a gamelan that's tuned in a certain way. Those have their own separate powers. And although they can't modulate in the same way 12-tone systems can, they have beauty inherent in their own systems that doesn't need to be necessarily, like some would argue, improved on with 12-tone, but it's a different system with different abilities and strengths and weaknesses.
That's fantastic. It's not what I'm talking about, though.
Go on.
I'm talking about that when the harmonics of this note, boing, blip, 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 harmonic cycle. See, what's supposed to happen is that when notes play, their harmonics are supposed to slide into each other. That doesn't happen in Equal Temperament because everything got yanked out ever so slightly. So all those harmonics are kind of like, they're all clashing with each other.
Yeah. We're talking about the same thing. I think you just added some extra detail in how we derived the notes to use by looking at the harmonic series that's inherent in every note, the mathematically perfect things. And then we fudge it a little bit to get it so that we can also not have a huge Pythagorean comma at the top and wolf tones in the middle, and make it sound bad. Which I see exactly what you're getting at with a poisoning of the purity, but I also think it's a richness that we strive for anyway, in some senses, in groups of musical sources, and 16 violins not being all identical, in 4 male tenors not being all identical. Those same harmonic sequences, from the fundamental up to all the partials on top, are still out of phase with each other, but that is a richness that we like in a lot of contexts. So I still think we are talking about the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, like we're talking about the chorus of people or instruments coming together and everybody is slightly out, so it sounds bigger and more chorusy. I am talking about the concept that maybe there is something lacking, magical in Western music that we are beaten over the head with.
Yeah, I hear you.
That is because of this tiny little thing, because shit's in tune.
That is the compromise. I fully agree. And I think that is why it is so important to be exposed to different kinds of people with different cultures and different systems and different histories of scales and deriving music, because they do have that different magical component that you're talking about. It's still here. Gamelan didn't go away. The ragas didn't disappear. We just need to listen to them as, Western 12-tone adherents. Maybe compose with them if you want to dabble. I don't know. That could be important. But I think it's beautiful to note that those are still here, and we can still benefit from any healing, expansive growth powers that they would have to us. And please do, is my admonishment.
So yeah, that's my rant on bowls. I have more questions than anything else, and I have more in music in general, that there is something wonderful and glorious forgotten. There is a galaxy to, like, when I hear people, even fucking 12 tones poisoned, I just said it again, has poisoned like traditional Indian music. And because that's all now quantized to 12 tone. Fucking since when? So yeah. Does anybody else want to jump in and shoot their mouth off right now?
Oh, the word hegemony comes up, though. I was going to type that into the comments about how
I don't know what that means. What does that mean?
The dominant paradigm of 12-tone Western music being so powerful that it poisons and influences other tuning systems and reduces their importance in people's experience. Really true.
So
I would suggest that 12-tone equal temperament instruments, the wide availability of them, because they are widely available. It's not poisoning, it's just making it very easy to go down that path.
Okay, so my
People like easy.
um yeah. Okay. I don't think people have got a choice myself. But anyway, Brett, go.
There's this question in the chat as well, but it's just kind of a thought I had while listening. But is this not also some of what like analog synthesis brings back to the mix, in which you're getting some of these accidental harmonics and such that, and I mean maybe it's not married to the exact scale you're talking about, being non-12 tone, by its primary nature, but maybe that's also what some of these things bring back to the table in our construction of songs and trying to tell stories through music or magic or whatever, and are just kind of part of it.
Maybe. Yeah, I'm so sorry. I've been missing out on so many of these conversations. Rezi, your hand's up. Talk to me. Thank you,
Yeah,
Brett.
I think that analog synths definitely are written into that story, but I do think they're also kind of the opposite approach from what Ivan and Carl and you also, Brett, were talking about. Systems of tuning where a single note's harmonic series is in harmony, concordance with the tuning system of the individual notes. And an analog synth isn't any necessarily better at that than it is at playing 12-tone. And in fact, unless it's a Buchla, it's probably got a 12-tone keyboard attached to it. Your modular system may not. But we are still stuck with picking the notes that don't that don't match the harmonic series that the individual sounds are built in. I'm sort of half agreeing and half saying there's maybe more to it, but it's an interesting path that at least having either a modular or tweakable enough synth, yeah, you've got access to all of these spiritual realms that the chants and bowls and beat frequencies that we've been talking about all along. You can do them with that. It's a cool tool for it. Whereas a piano might be a little bit harder to retune for every different temperament you want to try on a given day. Although I've seen people on YouTube that do it. It just takes a little more time to retune.
You can, thank you. You can tune them on, like for example, you could use a modular and tune them using a sequencer. I don't have an equal temperament. This is interesting because I just realized I don't really have an equal temperament way of tuning on the modular. But then, of course, my next question is, I don't want to hear one sound for 45 minutes or 5 minutes or something. Like I don't want to hear one tone. And I want to hear, I don't know if it's my busy brain and that's bad because it's distraction. But part B of the question is if you start layering that with chordal stuff and everything else, like, and be aware this conversation it's a fun exploration of stuff. What happens if that's all this is. If you were going to be harmonizing, what do you harmonize to? Are you harmonizing to Fibonacci numbers? Like what? Because I know that the K2000 does have a Fibonacci scale in it. I think I saw your hand, Razi.
Yeah. Simple ratios, mostly like, your 2 to 1s and 3 to 4s and 5 to 4s at the most complicated are generally what humans harmonize with. Those kinds of, unless you're trying to do something that's beating and dissonant, which the Bulgarian women's radio choir is really good at. If sampling in the 80s with your VAST K2000 was any lesson learned, sampling their notes where they hold them and are dissonant and beating is a different practice, but it's definitely just beautifully human as much as the simple ratios. But since we're talking about my Western influence, when I would sing along with somebody and the rock music that I listen to, despite the equal temperament chords being fudged, the humans singing together, listening to each other, still do just major minor temperaments.
Yeah. It's interesting that, yeah, Brett, you mentioned the Mongolian throat singing and stuff. It is interesting when you set out with a drone and then you just sing over the top of it. And it is really fascinating how, people say I can't sing in tune. Well, maybe you can sing in tune. The problem isn't you. The problem is the actual scale. Maybe you're locked into a different scale. I naturally sing between a major third and a minor third, and I naturally sing between a flat six and a full six.
It's because you're the bluesiest motherfucker on the planet.
I'm pretty goddamn blue. And I always slide on the flat five and the five. And I hang off a flat seven a lot, but it's not actually a flat seven. And this is actually another really interesting thing so you come up with this thing and it's fucking dope, but then you want to harmonize to it. So because I'm hanging on that note that's halfway between a third and a major third, do I just play a fifth? Like, am I just playing like an open fifth? Do you know what I mean? Like, and that's what's difficult about it is that, if you got something going on, it's actually, it becomes this compromise. Because and then like in the next bar, you can't say, I'm going to go to that major third or minor third because now you sound out of tune. So I don't know. It's just this really, maybe it's a super exciting thing because now you have the opportunity to epically fuck with heaps of stuff and to reinvent heaps of stuff. Rosie, what do you think?
I think that it's funny how autotune has taken that out of the calculation quite a bit. You just basically lock it to 12 tone, 12 TET, and that's it. There's no what note are you going to sing. You fucking pitch quantize the lead vocal so it's, exact equal temperament minor third, and then you sing the third above that and you retune it so it's locked and phasing with itself and sounds like a vocoder instead of human speech, which I don't know why I found that so funny now that I'm thinking about it because it's making me a little bit more sad. But that is one, like, if we're going to talk about like the process of making music, sometimes I do like hard tune a vocal before I do the harmonies on top of it just for shits, which kind of answers what Carl was just talking about. If you can't decide which thing you're trying to tune to, maybe eliminate one of the choices that you're making so that you've got a melody that you're following on the lead vocal, then you can pitch quantize that, not for permanent keeps for the final mix, but just to do the stacked harmonies on top of it, so that when you're listening and tuning, you're tuning against something that's like a known quantity. And maybe that's 12 tone equal temperament, maybe it's just for the key that you're in, who knows. I didn't have the chat window open when Carl had to bolt, but I think he'll be back in a moment. So I keep raining on the parade and bringing it back down to the virtues of Western temperament. But one thing that comes to mind is like specifically in production when working on a thing, have either of you made decisions about the tuning temperament or scale that you're in that like have surprised you or brought something new into the exact melody or song that you were working on?
Not intentionally in terms of like sculpting a scale. Where I found most of that to be similar is finding non-typical notes, like a rabbit screaming, or an old phone ringing for certain populations. That doesn't work so well anymore. And how those then mix with like binaural beats and making basically just layering, things that that are trying to trick the human brain into, or not even trick, but make it want to go there, make it
Yeah,
make
yeah,
it
yeah.
go down that path.
The two sounds that you mentioned there, and the rabbit screaming and the telephone ringing, are interesting, complex noises with a fundamental tone to them. But the rabbit scream has a roughness on top of a fundamental, and the telephone ringing has two pitches going back and forth, generally with a beat frequency from a singing bowl mixed in. That's a really oddly spiritual sound, a traditional actual bell gong inside a telephone. Um, Carl, I wanted to bring it back to you, since your face is back on my screen, and include you in the question of like an actual production moment when using something that wasn't in the 12 tone sequence made the song, or fixed a stuck point for you, or solved a problem.
Such a, I this is really difficult. Like maybe this is why I do so much portamento and sliding. Because either I can't dedicate to it or I just want to funk on or off it. And that's what I was saying before about like what the hell's going on with this third. Like if you want to make your stuff sound magical, cloud the third. And I'm not talking about playing major minor, fucking sharp nine bullshit. I'm talking about bend that third, or start at the minor and always portamento up, so that during that eighth note, you can hear the thing rise, and you're gonna introduce something really fucking brilliant to your track. And that's why I think controller 5 portamento is so important, or pitch bending. And you set your pitch bend only to be like one semitone, so you can just go up there. But I don't know. I grapple with it all the time, because like if I start a song that is a vocal just going over something, I'm going to run into this problem. And I love big complex chords, and I love going between big, crazy, wacky, non-diatonic space shit, even with Angelspit. But like I said, you can't do that if your notes aren't clearly defined, because you're going to come out sounding flat, especially if you've got a vocoder going bam, bam, bam over the top of you. Like there's a really cool thing in Cubase 13 or whatever I'm using now, where you can look at the music, what you're singing, and you can extract MIDI information from it, and you actually tell it that the pitch bending range is going to be one semitone. So that's going to pull out a MIDI note that you're singing, plus the pitch bending, so the MIDI note will pitch up or down to wherever you are not exactly on the beat. And that's fantastic, because you can start putting that stuff on the bass. And that is just fucking dope. Yeah, it's, I don't know. And when I talk about like the polluting of music, this is what I'm talking about. The polluting of like 3/4 that, is stopping you from being able to create something absolutely really wonderful and unique. And I very rarely, when I make something like this, I very rarely go, oh, that's weird. I usually go, oh my God, what is going on there? That's just beautiful. I don't know, whatever. Yeah, so, yeah, I want to start getting more into the MIDI note extraction and stuff, so that bass lines can be being more sexy.
Interestingly, I never really used the pitch wheel on a synth to do expressive, like landing between notes kind of stuff. It's just not, there's a dead zone in the middle of it in most of them, and a detent in most of them. And it's not, unless, it's one of those with a touch strip that really, or like a CS80 that's got a huge touch strip that really feels what you're doing as part of the expression. So I didn't include out of tune, non-12 tet notes in my repertoire, really, except on guitar, which it's all over the place. And sometimes like a whole song is just a big in tune or loosely out of tune 12 tone, minor thirds and major thirds are defined setup until you get to the solo, and the guitar is like emulating an mbira or something to land between the notes and bring the blues. And that's, I don't know, I got to really think about how I've lost out on not doing that with other notes in other parts. But yeah, guitar, you end up doing that a lot with the pitch bending and bending between notes and landing, especially on the blue third.
It's fun. Set your pitch wheel at either 2 semitones or 1 semitone. And it's really fun to have that conversation with the synth. And you might, mostly what I do it all by hand. I actually like program it in. Increasingly, I am trying to play notes in more. But then you do a whole take where you're just pitch shifting. And it's really nice because, like in industrial music, it might be like 1, flat 2, flat 2, flat 2, 1, that moving up a semitone thing. Make it a half semitone. And don't make it like, I'm really, really scary, back to the 1. Make it bam, 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 like really sexy. And it becomes super fun. Super, super fun. Because, it has, when you don't go to that, this is my thing, is that you go C, 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 D flat, C. So you're going like basically Jaws da da, but it's in that industrial thing. Equal fucking temperament, but when you go slide, and you don't hit it, it's just this thing that's doing this, and then it comes back. You sure as fuck can feel it, and it's this totally different. It goes out of being stock standard evil into sexy, into something really interesting. Yeah, I say bring that shit all over the shop. Bring that shit. It's great fun.
I can think of a couple of really interesting destabilizing moments where the synth in the top line is about to do something with a like long portamento, but it's a really slow one. So you just hear it start emerging out of tune and you hear it come up out of the mix. And I think maybe our friend's Electric is coming to mind. I don't know, but there's moments in the electronic tradition of portamento synths coming into the spectrum rather than locked onto the notes that I think, you hear it happening and you're not sure what exactly it's going to be. Is that just out of tune? Oh no, it's got a direction. So it's got this little mini story right in the event.
And also there's a lot of like Benny Benassi comes to mind. People who just slide around on that thing all day long. It's just like, it's a wonderful, wonderful thing.
Yeah. I'm thinking of like violin and theremin where you're always holding the pitch gently in your hand, and sort of depending on what tradition we're talking about, sometimes really sliding around and landing in interesting places. And El Shankar comes to mind on the double violin, like between the notes and stuff. Like there's that real soul and emotion being off the grid of 12 notes.
Does anybody else want to continue on this, or do we want to move forward? I'm trying to remember what the fuck we were talking about. Oh, synthesizers, but we've just lost Brett.
Bowls.
Well, Brett is, we could, do you want to move on to old gear? Oh yeah, old gear. So Brett, I'll speak on Brett's behalf, has just set up a CZ101, CZ101, and a DX7 and a PC4, the Kurzweil. And I was talking a bit about librarians and stuff, which is very interesting. It's really funny, man. Like, retro was really hard. Like, it was really hard. And it's funny that there's certain parts of retro that were fun and I choose to hold on to, but there's other parts of retro, for example, librarians. I'm fucking done with that shit. But Brett, do you want to go on a librarian spiel?
Yeah, so I brought back some old gear, and part of the decision process here of how to use it involves, how can I back up these sounds? How can I keep them somewhere safe, something off the machine in case the machine blows up? I need to buy another machine. Of course, I can go to old school charts. I hate old school charts. And every time I go back to them, it's like I spend an hour figuring out what the chart is actually telling me to do. And then, so I would just much rather that be a software that can communicate with the synth natively. And let me get all the patches at least off of you, stored, prove that I can get it back to you. And then I've got, the same sort of thing I've got with my DAW. For example, I run two NASs sitting here. One's in case the other fails. And of course, that's relying on RAID and everything else, but that is further down the point. So I've been on a search to see if I can't find something that modernizes this well. And I know that there's a pay-for librarian out there, but I don't want to pay for it if it's going to do the same thing that the manufacturer's own librarians are going to do. And so, part of my question or dilemma there is really that usage, that backing it up, so that if you're using gear that is 20 years old, how do you do disaster recovery, I guess, is where the purpose of a librarian is.
Brett, thank you. Ivan, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, when from an IT perspective, disaster recovery is king, because you need to be able to quickly recover from bad shit happening. Bad shit's gonna happen. Here's the big problem in especially the old synth world is there's the MIDI definition of sysx. And then there's the implementations, which maybe they followed the rules, maybe they didn't. Also, getting the sounds themselves on and off old gear, maybe you're doing that through the audio port, or maybe you're doing it through sysx, and maybe good luck. And we're also double damned by the fact that especially back in the days, especially back in the 80s and 90s, people that created user interfaces for gear had no clear idea what they were actually doing. They were just trying to either save money, save complexity, or save money or save complexity. And the result was it often made using the gear a giant pain in the ass. Added a whole lot of extra complexity or annoyance to it, and also as time progressed, the technology got better, and occasionally the hardware itself would catch up with that fact.
Thank you. Last time I had an editor, it was the VZ10M on an Atari. Because I'm legit. Secondly, Brett, do you run your CZ101 in multi-timbral mode?
I have actually been running it mostly in solo mode.
So you can do that across 4 MIDI channels?
I do. So that's another thing that we can go on a whole nother topic about, of how many manuals I've printed in the last week.
Yeah, it's amazing. I remember I had a CZ3000, and the day I found out that I could do multi-timbral mode on the CZ3000 changed my fucking life.
Yeah.
You just hit solo and then MIDI or something, isn't it?
Yeah, it's literally there's 3 buttons. It's you can solo, multi-timbral, or the other one is I need my glasses. Tone mix.
Yeah.
Tone
It's
mix.
it's I didn't know you could do tone mix on it, but there you go. So that would be 2 voices each.
Yeah, literally. Well, it's actually it's kind of like what the Kurzweil does, where you can actually combine 2 voices and have them play simultaneously.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, no, Razi, thank you. Floor is yours, Razi.
Am I just, I did a quick search because I just started paying attention to the topic for the first time in 2 years. But currently, is there like maybe no actively developed universal editor librarian for available, or is it just my quick read?
I found one.
Is it okay to just mention which one you're looking at?
So I'm not using it yet.
But just for conversation.
Yeah, Synth Zone. Let me find it again. Synth Zone library.
I mean, patch base maybe, or
Maybe.
there. It's cool if you don't have it in front of you. I didn't mean it was like really important, but here's what comes to mind is like my example would be, and this might be nuts, but just get a Mac running OS 7 and run Sound Diver Legacy. It's like bulletproof, customizable. There's a million modules for it. You put any, maybe you want to get a newer Mac, so it's got USB. I don't know if you want to go all the way back to the Mac Plus. And when I say Mac, of course, it could be a Windows 3.1 PC just as well with a serial port and serial to MIDI or whatever. And just run these sort of frozen in amber, not currently developed, but, reliable patch editor librarians, universals. I mean, it could be a good way to go.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to that. And Carl mentioned the Atari.
Or an Atari, yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah.
That's actually my starting point as well. Well, I'm not going to say it was his starting point. That was my starting point, and where I got used to, especially sending SysX through the actual song and actually being able to change the voice right there on the fly through programming instead of picking voice 2.
The reason I went to Sound Diver is because it ended later than anything on Atari, and you're more likely to have modules written for vintage modern, but not ancient vintage stuff. And if your goal is to have more modules, then, and by modules, I do mean custom librarians and custom interface editors, patch librarians, and SysX editors, so you have knobs on the screen, written custom for those synths, and some of them are nice looking, some of them are hard to use, but it's an interesting little, reason to have an old machine running with some old software.
Yeah, I might have to pull out the Mac Mini on this. I'm looking at it now.
I used Galaxy editors back in the day, which is pretty similar to Sound Diver. I think it was Sound Diver eMagic, or am I way off?
Yeah, it's eMagic.
So Apple doesn't continue that with Logic anymore, but back in the day, Sound Diver and Galaxy Plus editors were the 2 competing ones that I was sort of flipping back and forth with. And I was on Studio Vision Pro, so that was Galaxy editors from Opcode was the one I was using, but they're similar. Sound Diver being more widely supported and lasting longer. Store some patches.
Trying to stay positive here. It's so funny that because Rob comments, the CZ, it's Z. Rob will back me up on that one. CZ 230S did a whole bunch of awesome multi-timbral stuff, and that's actually where I learned how to do this for the CZ 3000. But it's really funny. This is one of my things about how I remember it being this really wonderful, fantastic thing, and they're talking about it is like, oh God, I couldn't be fucked, because half the time, because you had to have a handshake. You had to make sure that the MIDI out of your computer was, hooked up to the MIDI in of your fucking, oh my God. And then you had to unpatch that when you're using your songs, because if you didn't, you'd get MIDI echo.
Oh, you've got your JL Cooper patch, MIDI
I didn't
patch
have
bay.
a fucking MIDI No, it wouldn't work through a fucking MIDI patch bay. It wouldn't work. It had to go directly. Trust me, listen to the angst and pain in my voice. And also, look, I love the CZs. I fucking loved them. And that's why I really wanted a CZ1, because it was touch sensitive and it did look kind of sexy. I think it's the only one where they got the color scheme right on it. And it was 16 voice, and it could actually have fucking touch sensitivity. But, oh God, no, you guys keep at it. And I commend you. I am the little dark rain cloud who is raining all over your parade right now. I'm so sorry. I think I need therapy. I really need.
This whole discussion is for somebody who needs a project to fix their attention problems and get obsessive with. It's not because it's like healthy.
That's also, just for the other, to balance things out a little bit there, Carl. It's not the end of the world for me. I mean, what I've also come to the conclusion on is like, okay, I'm now in the bonus round. If I can accomplish this, and save these, then it means I'll use these differently.
Do you have a cartridge?
I do.
Look at you. I lied because I'm a bastard. I did use a DX for the TX7. And it's really interesting. I've got this thing. I only want to use one sound per song. Yeah. And I've used them all. And now I have to turn back on that I don't want to. The editor library. I can't be fucked. I just can't be fucked.
There's a few tricks about the sounds, on these synthesizers early on. And, a single sound can be used to make multiple voices, for multiple songs. And it's just the duration of how long you play it, because they all have that flaw where they can't play the whole thing if you cut the MIDI note off. And so by stringing those together, you can produce a new sound in the DAW right on the fly.
And a fun thing about the CZ as well is that if you fire a note with a super short MIDI note and it fires before it hits the height of the attack, it fires off this really weird harmonic.
That's also true.
Yeah. So, oh God, Razi, I feel like I'm ruining this conversation.
No, I'm sorry. I didn't think we were done talking about old librarians running on old hardware. So
no, then we got to get into old hardware. Like
the
make
thing
sure
actually,
there's a fucking floppy drive so you can format your fucking Emacs fucking discs. And when people from fucking Canada say I need the must fucking disc to run a diagnostic. Oh God, I want to die.
Jazz drive. I was trying to get us out of that actually a little bit.
What, Resi?
Here's the nice thing: run it in a VM. Sheep Shaver runs Mac OS on Mac OS 9 on OS 10, or it used to. I don't know if it works on Apple Silicon, but that actually forwards your serial ports, so you can actually not real-time stuff like a sequencer or an audio, but patch librarians and things like that. I bet will run okay inside a virtual machine on your actual machine, so you don't have to pull out a new piece of hardware. Do that.
And then you think you're really clever because you've got a USB-driven floppy drive, but the problem is that USB floppy drives, Emaxes, and a lot of the samplers and fucking synthesizers of that time do not read the boot sector of a fucking USB fucking floppy drive. Fuck.
You just saw somebody that put the full Frogger game in the boot sector of a floppy disk, and it was playable. So that's
on an Emacs. What I'm saying is that if it's not PC compatible, which most of the synths of that time were not, USB floppy drives, they don't work.
Yeah, agreed. I've seen that symptom, absolutely. But I think we're rooting around that a little bit by just running it in a VM with virtual drives and stuff too. You're stuck if you need to get the shit off your floppies and attach it to something. Like, what the hell are you going to plug it into? But
yeah. I hate my lesson.
You might have to kiss them goodbye.
No.
Okay, then you drag out the original hardware. Done.
Who are you? I do actually.
I've got spare blank charts if anyone needs one.
Oh, good. I've got those pieces of paper were the best night. I do have a guy. Maybe you could be my guy as well, Brett. That if shit hits the fan, I just email him a file. He will drop it onto a floppy and post it back to me. God.
Did you calculate the number of bits per second that whole transaction takes?
That would be funny. That would be very, very, very funny. So yeah. God. No, this is such a great conversation. And I think that you guys are obviously immune to this. I am not. Ivan, are you on reverb right now? Ivan. All right, who thinks Ivan's lying?
Okay, no need for reverb right now.
You get this look on your face? It's like Ivan's on reverb. What?
Here is my big thing with like modern attempts at librarianing old hardware. There we go. There's an image. Like it gets into like just search for the Holy Grail crazy so fast.
Well, yeah, this is my thing. I'm hijacking this. I'm sorry. What you guys are saying is so important, but I'm such a bastard. What did you send us? Oh my God. Yeah.
Crazy wall.
Hunt for a librarian.
There it is. Sorry, that was a Zoom joke, everyone. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
This is the this is the thing, is that I guess for me it's like I go so deep into this, and I spent so much of my like prime strong early 20s, late teens, early 20s, like when I'm on fire to make music, fucking around. And I didn't know I was fucking around. And it's not fuck around and find out. It's, no, this is just fucking around. And I think that's why it was a depletion of my energy when I could have been. And some people can do that. Some people have got the resilience to do that. I don't. And I commend those people. And of course, when shit goes wrong, I, as Brett knows, I come crying to them, going, help. I don't know. Help me, somebody. Rezi, go.
I have 3 very broken, partially broken, and just a little bit broken synths. So my project is going to be working on those things.
What are the synths?
The ARP Omni probably needs all the capacitors redone, and they're, the big tantalum capacitors, and there's probably 300 of them, and people have done it, but it's like a long process. The JX3P has always had, when I bought this one, somebody sat on it probably. So one of the main switch bearing analog boards is cracked in such a way that people have soldered jumpers between the 2 halves of the board. It's beautiful, but it doesn't work right now. And just this week, I found out the hard way, the frightening and surprising way about my Pro 1, that the power cord had a fault in it. So the electrical cord arced like a motherfucker, lit up the room, made smoke, the whole thing. So I'm hoping that was a strong and fast enough arc not to have damaged any components past the internal power supply, and I just have to replace the cord. But I'm committing to these things somehow. It could be 5 years of work. I've just never set upon doing it, but.
Okay, this is nice because we're getting into therapy. Brett, do you want to throw in here?
Yeah, look, pulling out the gear here that I've pulled out has literally been part of our discussions and whatnot in the past few weeks, and it's at the end of the day, what's been kind of inspiring about that is hearing all these machines work together again, and there's been a lot of fun in that, and it just goes kind of back to the point that if you have these things sitting around, then go ahead, break up the manuals and everything else, because it's probably been 10, 20 years if you're me. And it brings back a lot of that fun and a lot of that fuck around to find out kind of attitude. And at the end of the day, I still have the working system, so it's not like I've lost anything. I'm just adding old friends back to the table.
Good. Let's see. Zed does have it's got actually a surprisingly good low end.
Oh yeah, the bass. I got a track I spun up yesterday that I'm working on, and I'm using it as the floor bass, if you will, of that track. While the DX7's actually doing a drum track. The microchord is actually just doing these weird little notes that is perfect for those types of synthesizers. And then, of course, the PC4 brings the polish, so it allows you to play the whole spectrum.
Mm. The no, baby, yeah, because I always wanted to make a song that was just all CZ, and it was going multi-timbral. So each of the sounds were like mono, but they'd have to have a really quick decay, because the cutoff on the CZ, I recall, was fucking awful. Yeah.
It also has a killer kind of almost like a chime, but it's like this kind of bassy chime. But it's a very clean sound. It has just enough harmonics in it to keep it really interesting, but not overpower anything. It's one of my favorite sounds on it.
Good stuff. A question that I do have is like what, when you got gear to fix and it becomes like a project, when do you do it? How do you do it? How do you, please?
For me, it started when I was not really feeling as creative and writing songs. And I still wanted to be in the studio. I still want to be in the creative space and still, do that. So it's kind of like, I don't know, it's kind of like digging out toys that you've not played with at the bottom of the toy box. And then all of a sudden it inspires new ideas. That's the motivation for me there.
That's a really good point. That is a very, very, very good point. Is that, instead of doom scrolling, put on your knee pads and your headlamp and clean up, fix up. That's a good point, man.
I went through everything. I mean, I've been talking about the synths, but I've stacked up, all the guitar amps that, friends and whatnot have donated to the studio for years. I've got a Line 6 tube tone that has a couple MIDI jacks in the back, and I'm like, well, that can't be any fun if I slave that to a sequencer. And then it becomes, all right, well, my Line 6 already has the sounds I want from the guitar, so I'm just going to use that other amp to make all the sounds that I haven't wanted yet.
That's awesome. Good stuff. Thank you. Raziel, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, what he said.
Oh, okay, cool.
Pretty much. Plus, a little bit of a transition specifically from watching videos about some dude fixing ARP Omni for 6 months to actually doing that.
It's the wall of exhaustion that is super hard for me.
I hear that too, and I just remembered that was sort of where I thought your question might be coming from. And
sure.
This doesn't, for whatever reason, once I have a project out on the bench, there's no time limit, there's no requirements to keep working on it. It's just there, and when I'm in a swing of the things already opened up on the bench and the soldering irons are plugged in, and I've ordered the parts from China and they're on their way. It's got its own momentum that doesn't really get in the way of doing productive work otherwise, I find, with this specific type of troubleshooting and repair work. So it's in its own space that I would say competes more with doom scrolling than creativity.
I think anything's better than doom scrolling.
Hell yeah.
I think that's also why I've given the Blake 7 rant. I have I?
Well, you can't talk about Blake 7 too much, given your passion for the show.
It's endlessly fascinating for me, because I think I've had to really swallow the bitter pill and admit that it's terrible. And yeah, I know, but it is. I know. but it's a question of like, except Avon's one-liners, they're amazing. And then the thing is that, yeah, I've got to ask why. Why does my body, when I was a kid, it was the best fucking thing, and it was so scary. I couldn't watch it a lot because it scared the shit out of me when I was a kid. I was like six or seven. But why was it magical? Because this show was made the same time that the albums that I still love today were made. It's made just after Star Wars. And I guess what I'm trying to find is, what is it about the simplicity? And like, I can look at the sound design and I fucking love it, because it's all like Delaware A1 Cynthia A100 stuff. What is it about it that made it so? And the magic's still there. It's still there, and sometimes I can taste it. I can smell it. It was interesting that they did this episode the other night. Yesterday I was watching beginning of season 3, which is the worst season of all of them. But there's these, they get rescued and they're in this hospital, and they don't realize that the hospital is actually it's an organ harvesting thing. How fucking dark is that? And they're about to get organ harvested. It's not a hospital at all. It's a slaughterhouse. It's a meatworks for humans. How dark is that? And the nurses had these blue uniforms with green plastic highlights. And it's interesting that I remember that color combination of that green and blue. And I remember I got a taste in my mouth. I got a taste and I could smell it. And all of that is related back to music and the fascination with music and the joy and the that buried under all the frustration, the angst, the pain, the trauma, all that shit you get when you grow up. Underneath all that is still the wonder of a child. And if I can find a way, and we were talking before about, I've seen, there's a X7000, it's either on Reverb or on fucking Facebook Market or someone, an Akai sampler. Piece of crap. But it's like $300. And I've just gone, oh my God, I remember wanting that sampler so badly. And I remember the smell of Keyboard Magazine. I remember its smell. It had a smell. And that smell instantly, if I go into a bookshop, I figured out that's why I like bookshops. And I'm the guy who sniffs the books. Because I'm looking for that, yeah, thanks Diana. I'm looking for that smell. Because tied into that smell is inspiration, which is why I'm always going on about the importance of smell. Ivan, help me, get me out of this rant.
I may dig deeper. So the thing with Blake 7 is, I mean, it's not like great storytelling. The show's got problems. But you know what it does have that is really hard to beat? It's all done with so much enthusiasm that you cannot, you can't see bad special effects, for instance. You just don't notice them because the enthusiasm makes up for everything else. And it's really hard to recapture that level of enthusiasm. As we had a discussion earlier today, the amount of we've been trained so hard to just be cynical, be burnt out, you just only see the darkness. That it's that's kind of horrible. Along with Blake 7, we've been rewatching Babylon 5, which I gotta say right now, in this current world we live in, is kind of, hate to use the word, bit triggering, because they go down some dark holes of storyline, and spend a bunch of time there, and it all looks like too familiar right now.
I guess, yeah, and Diana just mentioned BSG, absolutely. The thing that gets me is that I guess this haze of what is everywhere, this haze that has blinded everyone, and it's arrogant of me to say blinded, but it's blinded us. You're told what is important, and you're struggling with how to make what you've been told so passionately important to you. When you come into that moment of light of who you are and what your journey is, it's a pile of bullshit. I guess for me, my way of cutting through that, because so much of my ability to be, hi Frank, be a human. Do you want to come up and say hi? Frank's stretching. It comes from me trying to tap into who I am as a child. Like I will easily watch and pay very close attention to Wuthering Heights by Kate Bush, the original video, once a month. Not because it's amazing and it's an amazing song, it's nostalgia, but because there is a key in that song for me. It might be Highway to Hell by AC/DC for you, I don't know. But there's a key in that song for me that cuts through everything to remind me of the profound moment that I first saw that song when I was 6. And I remember it so fucking well. Like it will probably be my last memory when I die. I remember that so well. And that was when I saw magic and I saw possibility and everything. It was the beginning of something fantastic. Rizzy, what do you think?
I think in defense of nostalgia and the process of experiencing and re-experiencing, it just dawned on me as you were saying that you're constantly recontextualizing these things, and they stand as a benchmark for how far your ear has come or how far your other rich, breadth of experience has come to, reassess your relationship with material, that you have the oldest timeline and way to track how your tastes and abilities and experience have changed, rather than just, oh yeah, it sounded good when I was 8, I'm going to relive that. That doesn't express what nostalgia's function really is, now that I sort of think about it.
It's a really fascinating thing when you're recalling memory, because of how your brain recalls and then then adds to it. Because every time you go through a cycle of remembrance, you're adding things to it, which is why memory,
It ain't a tape recording.
Yeah. And that's, okay, Diane, I apologize. So you're talking about the original one. Oh yeah. I could go on about the Cylon sound for a long time, but anyway, and that's, I encourage everyone to try and figure out, and this is beyond nostalgia, although there's a lot of neurological healing in nostalgia. There's a lot in there. Your brain is doing some amazing things. Your brain is healing itself. It's reminding itself to grow when it gets nostalgic, when it becomes nostalgic. But for me, there are certain things that become keys to icebreakers to dive through the neurological poison. And the funny thing about the neurological poison is that it is affecting my music. It is affecting my art, similar to what we were talking about before we started the Zoom today, the stream. I am aware of poisoning. I am aware of this thing, and maybe that's one of the reasons that I go on about there's something here in the concept of the harmonics and getting away from the equal temperament and all that stuff. When I was a kid, I was brought up on gamelan music. I think the first record I ever got was a gamelan band, and that was not equal temperament. Fuck no. And Dad used to play traditional Irish music, and it was not scaled to equal temperament. It was traditional Irish music on traditional instruments, and it made me feel a different way. And that's what I find so fascinating about this, that Yeah, all that shit. Anyway, does anybody else want to jump in at this stage? Take the conversation wherever you want.
No, I was saying, my only thought there is that it makes a lot of sense. You know, the if you go to a Renfest, for example, you know, a lot of those tunings and whatnot still out there, still in circulation, and they tell a different story from a different time. It's I think there's an element where all these things can be used. So, I mean, spending as much time as I do in dissonance, all of them become, you know, options. And so, I think if you want to reference somebody in place and time, bring them back to a certain era, you take them back to the scales and whatnot that you heard then. It's a great way to break down. It's a great way to shortcut that communication with the listener. I want you in this time and space thinking like this. So here's the sound of that.
It's there's magic in this. There really is. And I've heard a theory that if you can find out what the scale is that is in your genetics, you start unlocking something deep in you. Yeah. But anyway, so that's a very nice thing to explore and to fuck around with. I think it's also so important to just fucking experiment, you know? To really, like, just experiment. Keep experimenting.
That would be a valid use case of reverb.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure. Anyway, so there's Rezi. Talk to me, Rezi.
Talk more about reverb for a sec.
For sure.
I mean, you said the magic word.
I did.
I used to have a healthy obsession with which verb algorithms were which. You know, I've got my hardware outboard stuff. I got the Lexicon new verb, which is like a 480 if you care about that stuff, and I roll into depths and stuff. But other than the Valhalla DSP verbs, I don't have any favorites like that are super dense, modern, chorus modulated. But like I hear mostly, I think, I mean, obviously synth patches with stacks and reverb, but I've been hearing guitarists on YouTube that come out with like beyond shoegaze. Like this is just drenched in verb kind of stuff, but with a bit of articulation. Are there current, like more modern, like pedal algorithms or VSTs that are ruling your dense and characterful reverb world right now?
This is fascinating because they're calling them abyss or black hole reverbs. The gigantic it's become a thing, which sort of sucks because my whole thing of as soon as it becomes a thing, I don't want anything to do with it.
I know, yeah, I feel you.
And like because like the bat verb, it's really fascinating because when you find that reverb that is so fucking incredible. And that's what I like about these older ones, the older, dare I call it, first generation black hole things. The noise engineering bat is a first generation. It's glitchy and I was thinking about this, how it's in music, it's everywhere. I'm looking at you. It's everywhere. How it comes out and it's all new and weird, and then it gets homogenized and homogenized and homogenized and homogenized, and then you've got Skrillex. You know what I mean? It just becomes so fucking... And that's part of the reason that I just don't give a shit about synthesizers anymore. I have completely lost interest in them because they're so... I just don't fucking care. And it's becoming the same thing with reverb. Like I'm the only... I don't know. And there's some incredible reverbs you can get, like super cheap, like from the late 90s, early 2000s. You know, that golden age, just before everything started sucking. They're so cheap and they're so beautiful. but they don't have that massive intergalactic I'm floating through space right now thing. If anybody else wants to jump in, just jump in, because I'm just ranting right now.
I'll just say that I'm sorry, Brett. Just also the Valhalla collection VSTs and audio units are the ones that I go to, and also EOS, which is a Valhalla DSP but audio damage version. And I've been using more and more the Ableton dual convolution and algorithmic one, and sort of blending. But I'm just throwing out the names there for showing where I'm stuck on generations of these things. Not using any of my outboard hardware really at all these days.
Brett, go. I want to come back to that. Go, Brett.
That's why when I get burnt out with synthesizers, I fall back on both drums and it's also why I learned guitar. It was okay. I feel like I've gotten to as far as I can get on this plane right now with this instrument. Okay, I don't want to stop. So let me find something else to learn, and some of that goes back to once your what's the right word for once a thing becomes a thing, you don't want anything to do with it. I can't think of the right word for that now. Sorry, but
he's a hipster.
I was going to say pretentious wanker, but let's go with hipster. Poser.
My thought has always been, it's like once I've understood that this has become a thing, mine's a rebellion of it. Mine's like, okay, cool. How can I fuck that thing up? How can I stick a fork in it and then just be like, haha? So there's a certain amount of rebellion there, I think, that drives it.
I'm all about forking it hard. Thanks, Brett. I'm going to actually take your concept of I'm going to go to the bottom of the toy box, because I like that. I'm going to pull out some toys I completely forgot about. And I will say the sound of Lego going is magic to my soul. I think maybe that's the ultimate sound. And Dad screaming at me when he stands on a piece of Lego. And I learnt most of my swear words actually from Mum walking on my Lego. Anyway...
Maybe you can come up with the cat equivalent of Lego.
Maybe somebody... Is there an ASM recording of someone just scraping through Lego? That's the greatest sound in the world. Anyway, what was I saying? Yeah, the whole idea of going to the bottom of the toy box and pulling out that stuff and, setting it up. What chord is Lego in? Actually, hold on, I'm going to come back to this. Lego is in, it resonates at 528, which is the solar plexus chakra, the love frequency, 528. That's Lego right there. I've now forgot what I was saying. What was I saying? Oh yeah, going to the bottom of your toy box, and even with your reverbs and stuff, like patch that shit up. If not into your desk, then into your patch bay, and run through with stuff, because it's funny, man. The further you go down fucking VST land, the more you become scared of noise. So running stuff through, I do anyway, because I'm a wanker. The more you're running stuff through, patching and shit, I say the better. You're inspiring me, so be careful. And I was going to say also, first question is, do you have a good tape reverb? And it can be it can be an emulation of tape reverb. And the second one is spring reverb. If you don't have a real spring reverb, get a real fucking spring reverb. If you want 1967, get a fucking spring reverb. If you actually all the way up to 1978, get a fucking spring reverb. If you want everything to sound like a fucking VCS3, spring reverb.
All right, dude. You said the words. I mean, I spent about an hour, 2 hours, 4 hours the other night relabeling some points on the patch bay that weren't up to date and get my documentation, and there's more things and more shelves. And indeed, my Tascam stereo spring reverb does not have rack ears. Oh, look, I made shelf space.
You've
I'm
got
gonna have
a
to throw that.
Tascam.
I do.
Dude, they're awesome.
Yeah. It's a nice sounding thing. It's RCA jacks, if I'm not mistaken, on the back. It's not.
Does it have control voltage? Like, does it have any way to modulate it live?
No, I mean I could certainly add some motors and solenoids to the
Don't
thing
do
to
that shit.
spring it
Yeah.
off, but it's it's just springs in a box. There's an attenuation and two channels of attenuation probably for stereo. It's very simple. If you hit it, it goes doing because it's got springs in it. I'll pull that out. And also, one of the things that was keeping me from ever using the 480L in a daughter card, which is inside a Mac 8100, is that's a noisy box and it takes a lot of electricity. But I did recently, past year, acquire a server isolation piece of furniture, and it'll quiet that down to be more than tolerable. I have my noisy spinning drives are in it now and stuff, and that might be a good place to stick an old Mac that has reverb and TC Electronic and a couple of other processor cards in it that have some interesting abilities. All right, yeah. Well, the reverb is. I'll definitely get that down on the patch bay. Like,
all right,
that's a good plan. Thanks.
Thank you, Brett. All about that toy box. It's just funny, like the amount of times you go looking on Reverb for shit that you already own. And then you look at the shit that you already own, and like I've got this old fucking SDD Korg fucking 1000 thing, which I got because it's amazing, and it is amazing, and I got it for like nothing, and now they're a lot. And I need to use it more, and it sounds great. It actually sounds fucking horrible, but it sounds horrible in the best possible way. And yeah. I think, and I mentioned the tape delay. If you've got even a digital tape delay, use that shit. Oh, go you. Yeah, use that shit because tape delays instant fucking 1975, mate. And that's the joy of it is use this old gear because remember, if you were 16 or 14 or something, and you could transport yourself into this room, your 14-year-old self would go, fuck! So how about we try and channel, using whatever you want, your 14-year-old self into your studio and let them wreak havoc. Do that. And it's also funny, you mentioned the, your how when you got a patch bay and all that shit, you've got the sheets of paper that go with it, the Excel printed out thing telling you what's going into what channel, all that shit, man. Triple Dog, I just did my new oscillating fan for the studio. Your 14-year-old self will love that for you. And if you can, run a speaker behind that thing and a microphone. We've had this conversation, haven't we?
Yeah, this was my. I did this using a lot of the gear that's actually here. I made an entire instrument out of an oscillating fan. Had a textured hub, and I controlled the speed of it with a glove. Hooked a guitar pick up to with a paper clip. Had it fed through the windscreen of a I think 700, and then piped that through delays and echoes until it smoothed out the sound. And yeah, it became a synth in and of its own right.
That's great.
It was awesome.
That's great. It's interesting that, yeah, spreadsheets, you better believe it, Diana. It's interesting how it's hard for me, and I'm having a lot of difficulty with this, is I've mentioned this before, how it feels like this part from here up in my brain, it feels like concrete. And making that becoming malleable, usable thought is a really hard thing for me. And I, that's part of the reason I'm always trying to delve into that young person who I don't remember having this issue. But the great thing about YouTube and stuff like that is that it does help you get inspired, but the thing about it is that I don't actually end up doing anything about it. I just watch some guy fucking around with gear going, oh yeah, I could do that. Oh yeah, I'm going to do that. Oh, what else can I watch? That's just me though. So that's why I'm desperately looking for other things, including Frank Plants and Blake Seven, to try and push through this endless fucking war I'm having with myself. Resi, go.
Here's a good thing. I ran out of channels on my mixer for stuff that's normal. So now that you've suggested I do this spring reverb in there, I got to buy a new mixer. So thanks for that.
Oh, you're welcome, Carl's a bastard. Here's another crazy idea. Go straight into it. Can you control the wet dry mix?
Yeah, but I mean, I got to have everything hooked up all the time. What
Yeah,
am I gonna
yeah, I
unplug?
know. But patch something straight into it so that it's not.
Use it like an effects pedal in the room, so I'm interacting with the box. Gotcha.
Yeah, but or the synthesizer or the whatever that you're running through it exclusively, that goes through the spring reverb.
Okay, fair enough.
So it becomes like a part of the sound as instead.
This table does strike me as a candidate for like that kind of junk stuff table that isn't on the patch bay. It's just its own world where you can pull cables out and connect things. I like it. I like it.
And then fuck with shit because using auxiliaries, that's fine. But the problem with an auxiliary is you can't really go, I'm going to go spring reverb and I'm going to drench the shit out of that thing, even when it's getting a bit distorted. Then I'm going to run that into my tape echo or fucking something. I mean, I know you can, but this is part of the toy box thing. Scrapes Lego. Brett, talk to me.
Mine was more of a silly idea for you, but maybe you can do cats for music instead of music for cats. And take your floor pedals, figure out how to make them Frank resistant and still generate MIDI, and let the cat play music with you. And where this comes from is, once upon a time, I had a cat named Raziel, and I had a very bad habit of leaving all my synthesizers on. And when I met my now wife, Azul would stay at the base of the stairs, and when she got bored, she would start playing the synthesizers. And that's how she would get my attention.
It does get your attention very fucking quick. No, that's a very interesting idea because, so much, the early 20th century thing where they were rolling dice and all that sort of shit. Have a cat. Yeah. Okay, I love it. Well, if anybody else wants to bring anything else up right now, please do. Also, whoever gives a shit, I'm actually fucking doing yoga. Thanks. I do appreciate that. I hate yoga. I fucking hate it. But I've got to do this to... It's very interesting that when I do this, oh man, if I listen to myself with all this bell, fucking ring, fucking bowl shit and chakra, I'm such a fucking hippie.
From a yogi.
Yeah. Where's Frank? Yeah, it's just interesting that I would call what is going on in me. I hope you don't mind me going on about me. I'm hoping this is going to help someone. It's venom. I'm full of venom. I'm full of anger and hate and frustration and venom. And I am desperately trying anything at all to clean up my diet, which I'm pretty good diet, all that shit, and get rid of this fucking venom. Because I have discovered that if my channels for creating music and art are clear, everything in my life is clear. Although making music is the most painful, arduous thing I have ever done, and that's never changed. But hey man, that's my kung fu. But nothing beats that drug when the song's working. Best drug in the world. Hit me, Grezzy.
Just showing up for yoga, not because I like it, and indeed I also hate it, but it is the one or two exercises that I've been able to incorporate into my life occasionally. You do bendy, flexible stuff, and maybe it hurts a little bit the next day, and you feel like you did something for yourself, and you attended to some inner attention that you wouldn't have otherwise. You can't knock it for that, but good on you.
That's good. So yeah, we're gonna wrap this. Unless I'll see y'all's Wednesday night with Alex. Unless anybody else wants to bring anything up, we're gonna fucking McFuck. That's why I've been shadow banned. Is because I have such a potty fucking mouth. Hell, he is. Thank you for being part of this. Whoever is still here. Thank you very much. Everybody's gone away. Well, more people are watching on YouTube than Twitch. That's interesting. Rob, you should jump in the chat sometimes. Sometimes I need someone to back me up, like it's CZ3000. Rob will back me up on that. We're going to bugger off right now, and I want to thank you all. More butter chicken and homemade bread, absolutely. Angelspit, this happens every week here. Please join us. Sometimes it's hit, sometimes it's awesome hit. This is brought to you by Angelspit's Patreon. Join if you want, I'd appreciate it, or don't join because so much of it is free. By the way, you're all getting bloody free digital copies of the new album. The new album, incidentally, is here. That's Patreon supporters. Fucking thank you so much. There's a whole bunch of amazing music that I want you to listen to, which is the Industrial Incisions playlist. Find a band you like and play it. You play one of their tracks once a day. You're going to fucking really help them out. Vulture Culture's thing is every Wednesday night, and it's great fun. It's very inspiring. Jump on that stream. Rezi, thank you so much for fucking... Thank you.
No, thank you. And specifically for the show and the time to talk about stuff and learn and grow. It's awesome. Not kidding.
Thank you. And we're going to bugger off over to MTV TV. So if you're watching on YouTube... That's where we're going. And Diana, if you could set up that raid, that would be amazing. That's what we're going to do. I think I have to do something on my Twitch that I didn't do that I have to do. God, I hate all this shit. Endlessly pisses me off. You know what else I hate? Administration for a fucking band, like doing an album. It's such a pain in the crack. It's just not, and it's like, it's the most boring thing to talk about. It really is, but it's like, fuck. God, I hate doing this stuff. Oh, we raid. All right, you rock. Did we raid? Still working on it. Yeah, oh God. Oh my God. But, Jesus.
It's just crack paint, huh?
It really is. Pain. Ray got cancelled. Why did the raid get cancelled? Diana, did the raid get cancelled?
Yeah, that seems a little sad. Oh, there it went.
We went? Okay. We're going to hang back here and chat.
I have raided.
We are
All right.
there.
Oh, tits. How do I fucking make this fucking thing work? Oh my God. I don't know what